Good evening, social media. I am going to direct this video specifically at Coral Gables homeowners of single family properties, even more specifically. So, doing a little bit of research and looking at the last 90 days of data, and comparing that to the last 90 days time frame for the last 5 years, found something interesting and I wanted to share it. There quite literally has not been at any other point as much cash as there is right now purchasing homes in Coral Gables, specifically Coral Gables. So I'm going to go over the method in which I pull this information and share it with you now. I'm going to try and keep this shallow, not too shallow, but also not too deep. I want it to be simple enough to be able to follow, but detailed enough to be valuable and straightforward enough to be able to understand. So let me jump right in. All right, so first I'd like to explain why it is I'm looking at the last 90 days. So in the last 90 days, we've had an extremely aggressive rate rise. Um, Interest rates for the mortgage for 30-year mortgage on average, this is coming from Fred. They get this information from Freddie Mac. I like to use this information because it is objective. It is an official source of information, of data. So looking at the last 90 days, we've had this incredibly aggressive rise in interest rates. We took about 5 months to get from about the 3% here in October until the beginning or middle of March. It took us about 5 months to be able to move through 3 and then get to 4%. And then we went from 4 to 5 in just a single month. So it's been quite an aggressive rise from the month or mid month of March, early March, all the way until where we are right now. And I was interested to see what impact that had on real estate and on transaction volume, and then specifically in the Coral Gables market. So what I did is I came over to this is our MLS down here. Realtors use the MLS. You do not have to use the MLS if you are a sales agent. However, the vast majority of sales agents are realtors, and so we pay dues annually to be able to access a lot of resources. The MLS is one of them. So the majority of transactions are recorded on the MLS. Not everything is recorded on the MLS. There's a lot that happens off market. You need to verify all that with tax rolls. However, I'm going to be using just the MLS data. So I came to my map and I set my boundaries. I'm looking inside of Coral Gables, understanding there's some parts of this that are not Coral Gables. Some of it is Little Gables. But for the purpose of what I was doing research on, I kept it from Tamiami until Coral Way, and then from 57th Avenue until Lejeune. So just this little square to see what's going on. And within that square, I'm looking at what is closed from day zero today and the last 90 days. I'm looking at single family properties that are not mobile homes, that are actual single family properties. And so I'm getting the amount of closings we've had. Here we've had 55. I'm able to specifically look at how many were cash closings, and here I see we have 32. And I'm doing that same process for the last 90 days for the same time frame a year ago, the same time frame the year before that, and before that, and before that. What I'm also doing is pulling the same information for the county, Miami-Dade County as a whole. I went through and I pulled all of the same data for the same time frames for the county as a whole. Also looking at single family properties that are not mobile homes to be able to compare Coral Gables to the broader county. I'm not going to bore you guys with pulling all that actual data. I did do it and put it all on a spreadsheet, and I'm going to go over what the spreadsheet illustrated. So I'm going to run through this really quickly to keep it simple. I'm not going to go through all of these numbers, but they are all here if you'd like to pause it and take a closer look at this information. Looking at the last 90 days for this year, so 2022, in Coral Gables, we've had 55 transactions. 32 of those transactions were, according to the MLS, paid in cash. That represents about 58 of the transactions were paid in cash. Looking at the actual dollar volume of those transactions, we've had about $81 million worth of transaction, and 49 million of it, a little over 49 million of it, has been in all cash. And so it represents about 61% of the dollar volumes that are trading is cash dollars for these closings. Looking at the county as a whole, we've had 3,690 transactions that have closed, 1,085 were cash, That is 29% of the transactions are closing according to the MLS as cash transactions. You can see we are 29 for the county and 58 for Coral Gables. So there is already signal that we have more cash that is closing in Coral Gables relative to the county. But then when you look a little bit further as well, and you look at the actual purchase volume of the county and how much of that was in the total of cash transactions, we've got about 51. So there's more cash and there's more cash closed transactions in Coral Gables relative to the county. So what's interesting is during this rate rise, obviously it's had a massive impact on the entire real estate industry. We are seeing a decline in sales. We are seeing a decline in mortgage originations and loan applications, and pretty much all metrics that track the activity in real estate. We are seeing significantly declining numbers to indicate that there's been a massive impact that this rate uh, run has had on the industry. And so what that's done specifically to Coral Gables is the following. We've got transactions down in this period of time relative to last year. Everything that I'm going to be showing you now is relative to last year. And so transactions in Coral Gables are down 35% relative to last year. Transactions in Miami-Dade County are down 22% relative to last year. This is not factoring in, of course, that we have less inventory. We have not been replenishing inventory. And so, yes, with less inventory, we are obviously having less transactions closing as well. So it's a huge impact on it. But the rate rise has not at all been helpful for this. And so in Coral Gables, the actual purchase volumes, the transactions that have closed, the actual purchase volume is 10% lower so far than where we were last year. See, last year we were at 90 million for the same time frame, the last 90 days. This year, for the last 90 days, we're at 81 million. So we have less purchase volume. And then we also have, well, I'll get to that in a second. And then as a county as a whole, we have also about 17% less purchase volume for the county again as a whole. So the number of transactions are down in both Coral Gables and in Miami-Dade County. The purchase volume, so the amount of transaction volume in terms of the closing price when you add them all up, the closing total purchase volume is down in Coral Gables and in the county. We're down further in transactions in Coral Gables than we are in the county. We're down further in overall purchase volume in the county than we are Coral Gables. But here's where it gets very interesting. So the actual transactions that closed with cash, the amount of cash that closed transactions, we're down so far for the year, so far for the last 90 days, we're down 10% in the county, but we're actually up 56% in Coral Gables. That is a massive number. And so we've essentially we're not far off from doubling the amount of cash that has actually closed transactions in Coral Gables, whereas the county more broadly is actually 10% lower so far than we were last year. So I found that information interesting and I wanted to share it with you guys all as homeowners in Coral Gables. I hope that you do find this interesting as well. And if you'd like to know more, please feel free to reach out. My name is Marvin Mora. I am a broker associate with Douglas Elliman Real Estate here in Coral Gables. You guys stay safe. Take care. Bye bye.